It is Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss along with Pauly Howard. This is going to be a lot of fun as Houston Curtis joins the program. His new book is called $1 Billion Hollywood Heist. It's available on his website, which is cardsharp.com, and it's spelled K-A-R-D, sharp, S-H-A-R-P, not shark, cardsharp.com, and he joins the program. Now, he was also behind backyard wrestling videos, the best of backyard wrestling videos. And he's basically been a card mechanic his whole life. Houston, good morning.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yep, you got it. So this could be a loaded question. You can take it any which way you'd like. But I watched Molly's game yesterday. The book, of course, it was very popular. You said, you know what? I need to write this book because Molly's game was inaccurate. What did you want to correct about her story, her book, the movie that you felt you needed to put in print yourself?
Well, I think you know that answer because you've read the book. But one of the main things is the fact that she portrayed herself as someone who ran this game, and Molly didn't really run the game. You know, the game was started in Toby's kitchen, and Toby and I ran the game the entire time, and there's a lot of inaccuracies throughout the film. And, you know, one thing I'd like to say that I haven't really had a chance to say yet is Toby Maguire is a great guy. He's like a really good person. And he made Molly rich beyond her wildest dreams. And I was shocked when she came out and just, you know, blasted the guy like she did. The smallest tip he ever gave her in his life was $1,000. And she calls him a cheap tipper and, you know, and all this stuff. And this girl knew nothing about poker, knew nothing about gambling, knew nothing about any sports betting, any of the stuff that would happen on the side. And she came in, and next thing you know, she's making $30,000 a night, and then slams all of us.
Yeah, that was I was going to ask you that because right in the movie, I mean, how he's portrayed, and then in the book, it's completely different. And that's the other thing, like you write about in they get into in the book. You think, wow, she's things are tough. I'm not doing that well, and then she pulls up one day with a brand new Bentley.
Yeah, that was really something. And you know, they always talk every time I get quoted. Everyone loves to talk about the time Toby asked her to bark like a seal, which was funny. You know, the whole thing was a joke. He's like, "You're making so much money." He's like, "I think you should start earning it." He's like, I tell you what, bark like a seal for the $1,000 tip. And it was all a joke. But the fact is she had pulled up that day in a brand new Bentley. We got guys who are losing $500,000, right, a night. And the hostess of the game is driving up in a new Bentley. And it just didn't look good. You know, it didn't look good. And that was the point Toby was trying to make when he asked her to bark like a seal. You know, and, you know, he always ends up looking like the a-hole. But you know, we just felt bad that guys they're dumping so much money. We didn't want them coming in the game and seeing, you know, the girl who's serving the drinks is making, you know, is driving Bentleys and flying in private jets and everything. And, you know, it was starting to look a little bad.
Okay, take us back to the very beginning with you and Toby, how that relationship began and when this game started to get really serious.
The first time I met Toby, I was at the Commerce Casino in Los Angeles, and I got set down right next to him, and we hit it off. I had already been a television producer. We knew a lot of the same people in the entertainment industry, and we started talking about. I started talking about this game that I was going to at this guy named Reagan Silber's house, and Reagan was like a class action attorney out of Texas who did really well, invested in some tech stock. Moved to Hollywood, and I told him about this game, and then that next week, Toby showed up at the game, and then he invited me to his house the next night, and that's when we really just connected, and we started realizing that these guys, there's so many guys in town who just learned how to play poker. Like they didn't even know how to shuffle a deck of cards. Most of the guys who were playing this game. But for Texas Hold'em, you just got to learn how to hold two cards and know what the hands are, right? And if I can sit and play with all these big celebrities, so we identified that, and we started, And first it started, with guys coming to his house. And as you know, it got bigger and bigger and bigger, which we can talk about. But that's how it all started.
What is it about these guys who want to sit down with the celebrities? They're billionaires and they're losing money almost on a regular basis because you guys are so good, you and Toby. But it's like, oh, I get to rub elbows with these stars, and it I guess it was the same thing early when we had the poker boom, and guys could come to town and play with Negreanu and Ivy and some of these type of people.
Yeah, and the difference is, in a lot of cases, you would think, playing with Negreanu and Ivy, you probably know you're going to lose money, but you have a story, right? But most people would probably think, I'm going to get to go play with Leo DiCaprio, and I might even win some money. We structured it in a way where, at the very beginning, the buy-in was only $5,000. A lot of people don't know this. This is when it was at the Viper Room. Once we moved out of Toby's kitchen because he couldn't stand all the, the guys like eating pizza in his house, and he's like, we got to get these scumbags out of my house. Where do we take them? So $5,000, and it was 100, 200 blinds. Now, if you guys have played poker, you know that you can't sit right in a 100, 200 game with only 5,000. None of these guys knew that. So they're like, they don't think about the blinds. They're just like, oh, it's just going to cost $5,000. I get to go play with Leo DiCaprio and Toby Maguire. Well, by the time the second orbit hit, these guys had already went bust and reloaded, and they would just reload. Because what are you going to do when you're sitting there and you finally get to hang out with a star like, Toby, and you go broke in the first, round? You don't want to look like a jackass, so you go back into your pocket and you rebuy. And these guys would rebuy and rebuy and rebuy, and they would lose and lose and lose. And that was the entire hustle at the beginning, the first year, until the game kind of shot up into the stratosphere. But we were killing it.
Sure.
Yeah, that was the strategy all along. You're exactly right. That 5,000 could evaporate within 10 minutes. So what are you going to do? Okay, see you guys later. Good to see you. Good to meet you, Leo. No, they're going to stick around. And Houston Curtis is going to stick around for one more segment. His book is $1 Billion Hollywood Heist, available now. His website is cardsharp.com, K-A-R-D, sharp.com. We got to ask him if Leo really needed to be staked to play in these games, which is hilarious. And a guy like Kevin Washington, who came from billions, and he didn't care, but he'd lose 100,000 every night. And it's like, okay, let's play again tomorrow night. That's coming up next. Cruising along here on a Friday, live in Vegas. Mitch Moss, Pauly Howard. Our guest is Houston Curtis. His new book is called $1 Billion Hollywood Heist. You can get it at his website, which is cardsharp.com. Card spelled with a K, sharp.com. We're barely going to scratch the surface of this book. It's so good. I mean, I read a lot of it yesterday. You can put it down just like that. It's a great read. And before the break, and this is just, it really is unbelievable. So you guys get Leo hooked, and he's going to come and play in the game, but he knows what's up, right? To play in these, and it's $5,000 buy-in. Blinds are 100, 200, like you said, but he's going to be like the magnet that's going to draw a lot of people. But he told you, he's like, look, if you want me to show up, you're going to stake me.
Well, so Toby was the one who told me, our whole plan from the beginning was, Toby's like, okay, we're going to get Leo in. We get Leo in, we can get, huge, huge fish. And of course I agreed. And then it was the night before the game. He said, all right, so just so you know, you and me are staking Leo. And I was like, what are you talking about? We're staking Leo. And he's like, come on, the guy's free rolling on life. He doesn't pay for anything. And he's like, he only plays aces or kings. So it's not like we're that much at risk. And he was right, because, just having Leo at the table, you get some other guy willing to lose $100,000 just to sit with him. and Leo was super tight, like total knit, so we didn't lose any money on him. So I had no problem with it. I went to Leo's house one time, and it was funny. I was waiting for Toby to come over, and he gave me a little tour of the house, and he said, "Check this out." He said, he showed me all of his furniture, and he said, "So, Armani, I think it was either Armani. Giorgio Armani or Versace. One of these guys said they were going to reupholster all of his furniture. I think it was Armani. It was like Armani leather." For free. And he's like, all I got to do is wear an Armani suit to 3 events, and that's all I wear anyway. So, when you get that famous, you're free rolling.
That's
baby.
Right. Yeah, right. Well, you name a lot of names, and you dropped a hammer on Jamie Gold in this book too. I mean, you go after Jamie Gold here.
I don't know if I'm going after Jamie. Maybe Jamie's an easy target. Jamie's a fun guy, and we had some good times together, but Jamie came in, off the heels of winning that $12 million, and he played. One thing I'll give to Jamie: he made the biggest game in the country play even bigger. He was a maniac, and he did put the fear of God into some people. But we peeled a lot of big pots off of Jamie. It was a lot of fun.
Right. So you're crushing it. You guys are crushing the game. You're up. I think you won $15 million. When does it start to go bad? Is it when when they discover Brad's running the Ponzi scheme?
It was like a series of events, and in the book I tell a story about when the largest tree in Southern California was right across the street from me. It was this guy named Saul Sachs who created Bewitched. He lived across the street. He was 100 years old. I went to his birthday party. When I first bought the house, I'm like, man, I hope that tree never comes down. Well, sure enough, that tree came down. And it took it was on all news channels in LA. From the moment the tree came down, that was like when my life jumped the shark. I wrote a chapter about it. Everything started going downhill. And all of a sudden, Ruderman was the biggest gift ever. Ruderman would drop 6 figures every time he played, and I never once saw him win. Toby and I tried to get him books, DVDs that I'd produced with Phil Hellmuth and Annie Duke teaching how to play poker. He didn't care. But when he got popped, it was like everything happened at once. The market crashed. You remember 2008, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I was in a house that was worth $3 million, went down to being worth $1 million. And then they came after us for all this money because Molly gave up all of our names to the feds. And next thing I know, I'm getting a $750,000 lien put on my house that's already worth, $2 million less than what it was when I bought it. And then I had the really bad night with Rick Solomon, where it was, you guys are odds guys. You would love the odds of this. I mean, he had absolute air. I think it was 2-6 or something like that, and he ends up going runner when we're all in to hit a miracle gut shot on me for a $1 million loss, and all those things happened at once. And before I knew it, I was having a heart attack, dying on the table at Cedars-Sinai, and I mean, I lost everything. I went from being on top of the world to losing everything like almost overnight.
Can you explain what it was like when things were still good to play with guys like Kevin Washington, who's in the book, who was a young guy? You explained like he's maybe like 6'5", built like a brick, what house. And he comes from billions of dollars, and he would get drunk. There's in fact one night when you had to drive him back to his house somewhere in LA, like the hills, and he asked for the ride home. And when you got there, a limo driver was waiting. He's going to take him to a private jet so he could fly back to his real house in Montana. You're like, wow, are you kidding me? And nothing fazed this guy.
No, Kevin was so much fun just to hang out with as a person. But yeah, he grew up in such a different world. We played one night, and I forget, it was still in the Viper Room. It was before the game moved up, but he was too drunk to drive. So I took him to Mel's Diner, and he ordered everything on the menu. It was awesome, like a child. He just said, Brian, he said, I'll have the lot. Bring everything. and he's dive bombing his French fries into the ketchup and telling stories about his brother and his dad, and he's like, yeah, my dad's gonna be really upset with me on Monday, Houston. He's like, people don't understand what it's like to be a billionaire. And so I'm like, all right, so can I get you home, buddy? And I drive all the way up the Hollywood Hills, and some dude's sitting there in a running stretch limo waiting to get him on one of his private jets. And then I'll never forget walking into the Beverly Hills Hotel once to pick up some dough from him. I was like $50,000 I had won the night before, and he's sitting in the Polo Lounge with one of the most beautiful women I'd ever seen. And they're sitting there having drinks, and he's like, oh, I got to take care of this. And I walk up, and he hands me the $50,000, and I just watched the girl's eyes go follow the $50,000 all the way up to me. And then I just kind of gave her a wink when I walked out. But Kevin lived a life,
Did you have to lose on purpose? Because you guys were so good and better than the other players, and you always won. I mean, did you have to give some back on purpose to make sure these guys would keep coming back?
Yeah, I mean, I had to a little more so than Toby, because, Toby's not. No one's going to ever not play with him. He was on the top of the world at that time. I mean, the Spider-Man franchise was huge, but Toby always had my back. Like if guys would complain, like, oh man, we love Houston, but he's crushing us. Toby find the, don't you remember when he went off for, when he called bad against Bob Safai, and which would normally be, I called good, and then Bob, hit me on the river. But he'd point out losses and try and have my back that way. And every now and then you just got to dump, 50 or 60 grand to the right guy at the game. And now you've got that guy in for, he'll lose another million because of what he won that night.
Sure. Less than 2 minutes. How do you feel about being called a cheat?
I don't like it. I prefer to call myself an advantage player. Okay.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the stuff you do is AP, but when you're taking aces out of a deck, though, I could see why some people would say that. What do you think?
Yeah, and look, the big game, when it got that big, there was no reason to manipulate the cards at all. Matter of fact, we did everything we could to make sure it was ran as straight as possible.
Okay.
Because we had an unbeatable scenario, guys. We had guys who were never going to get any better playing poker, and they were never going to run out of money. I mean, you can't ask for a better scenario than that.
It's the perfect setup. At the absolute apex, how much were you up? How much was Toby Maguire up?
I won. I won about 15 million over the course of the game. My biggest single night was like $465,000 win in one night, and I'd say Toby's was probably similar, maybe 500,000, something like that. Toby probably took 25 million out of the game, probably. I'm guessing.
Wow. When's the last time you talked to Toby?
It's been a while, probably 3 years or so. When everything happened to me and I had a heart attack and I literally lost everything. I didn't want to call those guys because it's like, I don't want to be the bummer, the guy calling in, used to fly in private jets with, these dudes, and we'd hang out and talk about the future. And I figure, I got it once, I'll figure out how to get it again. And then I'll pick up the phone and start calling Toby. But then this movie came out and everything, and I feel really bad for him because I think he's taken a blast in the media, and I don't think he deserves it. He's a good guy.
The book is called $1 Billion Hollywood Heist. Great read. By the way, is Toby okay that you wrote the book?
Toby's fine. He's fine.
Cool. And you can get it, by the way. Okay. Oh, we got to set this up sometime. You got to do some, we got to show us what you were really like, because you're the real deal as a card mechanic. Maybe we can do that next week or something like that, Houston.
I'd love to show you how you hustle a free breakfast when you're in LA County Jail.
All right.
Great.
Next
Get
up.
the book at cardsharp.com, spelled with a K, cardsharp, SHARP.com. Thanks, Houston. Good luck with the book. We appreciate the time.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Well done. Talk to you soon.
We'll roll it along. Matt Human's going to join the program coming up next.